Philadelphia is coming off a shocking loss on Thursday Night Football to the New York Giants, and now they get to travel to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, who are coming off a bye after being in Europe for a couple weeks. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we're breaking down this Week 7 matchup and going to provide our predictions at the end. So be sure to leave a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win and why. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. We're about 300 subscribers away from 8,000, and any help is greatly appreciated. And Ryan, let's get into this here.
Let's
The
do it.
Philadelphia Eagles, shocking loss. Like, it's not even that they lost, it's how they lost. Like, just
Yeah.
to lose 34-17 to the New York Giants and giving up 172 yards to Cam Scatterboo and Jackson Dart as well, while only having 73 rushing yards of your own. 13 of which was from Jalen Hurts, and like the 4 tush push plays that came with that in a row to score one of their touchdowns. But it's definitely, I think some of the alarm bells are concerning right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. I know they're coming off the bye. I know they're 4-2 and still leading the division. But that being said, though, it's not the same Eagles team that we all thought. I know, like, they lost a couple pieces on the offensive line, like Mekhi Becton left, but even to last year, they just felt so much more fluid on the offensive side of the ball, and it felt like they were just scrambling, And now, to be fair to the Giants, they do have a good defensive front, and they were causing them fits throughout. But this is where I think this is going to be an interesting matchup here, because now the Vikings coming off a bye, have a lot more film. Looks like JJ McCarthy might be coming back here as well too. I don't know if they're going to want to go with him or with Carson Wentz. Still, they're probably going to go with McCarthy just because you've invested in him. But on the flip side, though, you're still going to be having a Brian Flores defense probably seeing this and having an extra week to prepare, coming with some blitzes to try and cause fits for this offensive line, try and shut down Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. Ryan, what are some of the things you notice from the Eagles that they need to address? In how do you think they get that done here and win on the road against Minnesota?
They lack explosiveness on the offensive side of the ball. And I think one of the things last year, especially why they were able to be so dominant in the run game, was it felt like down the field, they were getting separation. They were winning jump balls. They were really stretching defenses vertically. And I just don't feel that way this year. Whether it's just a lack of attempts or unsuccessful attempts, teams are much more willing this year to just let those one-on-one matchups take place down the field, and they're not letting this offensive line bully them. And then on top of that, this offensive line has not played it as well, whether due to injuries, loss of talent, or just overall schematics. I think that is the other thing here is they're just not as good this year as they were last year. But
Yeah.
uh, defensively, I still think they're doing some good things. I trust Vic Fangio to kind of get this defense right. Some of it is just coverage bust, just not necessarily knowing your assignment. And the other part of it too was Jackson Dart was able to burn them early, so that I think they brought an extra guy down in the box. And then they just were winning. The Giants were just winning one-on-one matchups against the corners.
Yeah. Well,
And
and one big thing to add on to that too it's the more and more I see this, though, is it seems like almost the heart and soul of this defense is Jalen Carter.
yeah,
And when he's not in the game, like, there's a noticeable difference
yeah,
to the overall performance of this defense. And him not playing, I think, also is a big factor on this defense. Not He should be back by now. Seemed like he was a late scratch going into that game,
mhm.
and having like the mini bye. He should be back for this game, but if he's out for some amount of time, the Eagles defense is going to struggle.
Yeah. Well, and that was the weird thing too, was I still felt like the Eagles, even without Jalen Carter, should be able to somewhat stop the run. But
Yeah.
th- they could not, they couldn't stop a nosebleed on Thursday night. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be something really interesting to watch here. And I do think Jalen Carter will be back, and that'll also help this pass rush as well, just because of the attention he takes up on the interior there. But yeah, and then kind of switching over to Minnesota. Minnesota defensively, I think is a bit of an enigma. So they're the 6th ranked defense in total yards, but you go look, they're 24th in rushing yards allowed. And so I guess what they're doing is just let it, like, if you hand the ball off and you run for 140 on us, like, that's fine. But they're just not letting teams throw the ball all over the place and run up the score
Yeah.
against them. So
There is a little bit of an outlier in that, just that Falcons game where they gave up 218 rushing yards.
that's
So there's
fair.
a little bit of an outlier, but in general, though, I think if you take out that performance, I mean, and the Falcons also too, like they only passed the ball for 108 yards in that game, but because they didn't need to, because they were just running the ball all over them.
Yeah.
In general, though, they have a pretty balanced defense though when it comes to yards allowed so far. It's a little bit tougher, I think, to also fully judge because you played 2 games in Europe. Everybody's just a little bit off with those
Yeah.
international games as well, and one of those also too was against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. No, and that's very fair. And so I'm still curious. Like this defense, I felt like last year, especially through the first 10 games, this Minnesota defense was just balls to the wall, like aggressive, and just super difficult to play against. I haven't felt that way this year. Is like they've just have been throwing problems left and right at quarterbacks and
Yeah,
offensive coordinators. But who knows? Maybe in this matchup they'll get things right. Um, and offensively, they've been a little spotty. This offensive line hasn't been as good as they had hoped. And then, with JJ McCarthy kind of making his first few NFL starts, getting injured, going to Carson Wentz, hasn't been as smooth of a quarterback room as I think they would have hoped at the start of this year. So that's a couple things to just keep in mind going into this game.
yeah. I think it's going to be a great matchup between just the Philadelphia Eagles offense, who has been struggling, and this Minnesota Vikings defense, who, kind of to your point, is like not like they've been struggling, but doesn't have the same amount of aggressiveness as we're used to seeing from them. That being said, though, I still think they've had a good year so far,
Mhm.
outside of that Falcons performance, um, like where they just kind of got blown up. Where I thought it would be exactly like that, where Brian Flores would just blitz against us the entire time and put a bunch of guys in the box, make Michael Penix throw. They like that was a tough loss, but then too they barely lose to Pittsburgh in that Dublin game when I thought they were the clearly better team as well. So
Mhm.
I think this defense is still going to throw some fits towards Philadelphia. To me, I think the X factor is going to be whoever plays at quarterback uh, for Minnesota, whether it's Carson Wentz or whether it's JJ McCarthy. It's almost one of those. If it's Carson Wentz, you almost maybe you can guess kind of the level of play from the Minnesota Vikings offense just because of his veteran status. That being said, though, I think JJ McCarthy is going to be the route. If he's able to go, they're going to play him just because you invested a pick into him. And these are the
Yeah.
types of games like, nope, you're going up against Super Bowl champs. We want to see how you do, especially coming off a bye. You've had a bunch of time to prep for them here as well. And so I think either way, it's going to be a very balanced performance for this Minnesota Vikings team. And I think the biggest thing for me is I think this defense is going to play how we think they're going to play. They're going to give up maybe 17 to 20 points, just like how they've done for vast majority of the year. They haven't given up more than 24 points in a single game. And Philadelphia offense hasn't really been clicking. I think being at home, coming off the bye as well too, no matter who the quarterback is, I think they're still going to be having Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, who I think can really disrupt this Philadelphia Eagles secondary. I'm going to go with Minnesota here at home, and I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup here. And kind of after your prediction, I want to talk a little bit about the NFC playoff picture. I know like we're a third of the way through the season, but there's a lot of variables here. The NFC is loaded with potential playoff teams and potential Super Bowl representatives. I think so, but I'm going to
Yeah.
go with Minnesota here in this one. Who do you think is going to win this?
So I'm going to go with Philadelphia. I haven't seen enough consistency out of Minnesota yet to really fear them. Whereas I feel like Philadelphia has been consistent. It just hasn't been to the Super Bowl level that we all expected. Especially when Jalen Carter's in there. I feel like this defense's floor is top 12 in the league.
Yeah, that's fair.
And when I see JJ McCarthy potentially making another start, I just think that this is going to be a tough defense for him to go against. I doubt he's going to have much of a run game, given how this offensive line has performed. And this defensive front, when Jalen Carter's been in there, has been pretty stout against the run as well. So all in all, I just think Philadelphia just kind of matches up well. And then I also too, coming off the mini bye, especially a tough division road loss. I think Philadelphia is going to bounce back. It reminds me a little bit of Kansas City going to Jacksonville and losing. I
Hmm.
know that was a little bit of a tougher loss, but getting blown out on a primetime game as well sucks. So I'm going to go with Philadelphia. I think they're going to come out with something to prove. They're
Yeah,
Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson those are the player comps for Bijan when he was coming out. And I think that the Eagles are going to be able to establish a little bit of a run game here against this Minnesota team.
Yeah. Yeah, I know this is a big game overall too. Now, like with a third of the way through the season, Vikings coming off a bye, so they're 3-2. But you look at this NFC standing, just the way that's checking out. Like I don't believe the Giants are going to make the playoffs. I know they just upset Philadelphia, but I just don't think that they're there yet. New Orleans is the other team; they're for sure not going to make it. But you go look at every other team in the NFC West. Anybody in the NFC North, like I'll even include the Bears in there because I think the Bears are only going to get better as the season goes on, and Ben Johnson gets his philosophy more into this Chicago Bears offense. But anybody I think from the NFC North can win this division and could potentially make a run, especially as JJ McCarthy gets some more reps under his belt, and maybe take Minnesota back to the playoffs here and maybe win the division. Any team in the NFC South, I know that my Falcons are playing tonight. We're recording this on Monday. But if they can figure some stuff out, the Panthers, I think, are starting to figure some things out offensively. It's going to be tough. Buccaneers are still there. And any team in the NFC West, I know you might look at the Arizona Cardinals record. They're 2-4, but they have a total of their 4 losses, been by a total of 9 points. Like they could easily be 6-0 right now. And they nearly lost. They lost to the Colts with Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback here. The team's really good. This is such a big matchup overall too, because if the Vikings go 3-3, it's just another tiny hole that they have to go in. And on the flip side too, if you're Philadelphia, if you lose this game, you go to 4-3. Or potentially behind the Commanders here, who if they win tonight, they go to 4-2. And I think the Commanders are on a bye next week. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so they would lose a little bit of control in the division as well. Because the Eagles haven't had a bye yet. But even to Dallas, this offense is so scary as well too. Like who knows? Like any given Sunday, I think if this offense could go out and put up 45 points, especially once CD Lamb comes back. Like this is a big game for the Eagles just to try and keep surviving while they're trying to figure out some of these problems here. And on the flip side, Minnesota, if you want to keep staying in touch with the NFC North division and at least stay in a wild card race, like this is a game you got to win. I know it's very early on in the season still, but this NFC is loaded with teams. There's not a clear-cut Super Bowl favorite. I think, if anything, maybe the Buccaneers, just the way that they're grinding. But this is going to be a fun playoff ride here for the NFC as we're still in the middle of October.
Yeah. No, I mean, I laugh. I think you go look at the NFC and AFC, and it's totally different. There's, like you said, 14 teams that are realistically competing for 7 playoff spots. Right now, the Chiefs are in the 8th spot at 3-3. Then you have the Texans at 2-3 who have not looked good. The Bengals at 2-4. Like it totally drops off. You got 8 teams that are really competing for 7 spots, whereas the NFC is, I mean, you said this in one of the previous videos we just recorded. The Cardinals are 9 points or 10 points away from being 6-0. Like,
yeah,
and that's just kind of crazy to think about. So, I look forward to how this is going to shake out. I really hope there is as much chaos in those final 3 weeks as possible. Just make that time of year as exciting as it can be. And I'm really looking forward to when we get down to weeks 15, 16, 17, 18, and in the playoffs here. So, yeah, let's go ahead. Let's wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead in this matchup. Will it be the Philadelphia Eagles? Will it be the Minnesota Vikings? Other than that, we'll see you guys next time.